Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes. Only this is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial as reported by Intercity Press. The courtroom was dead silent as the judge called the next witness. All eyes turned toward the back as a familiar face stepped forward, one that no one expected to see. Usher Raymond, the Grammy-winning R&B star, was about to testify not about his music, not about a label dispute, but about what really happened behind the closed doors of Sean Diddy Combs' empire. For years, Usher stayed silent. He played the game, smiled through interviews, dodged questions, but now as Diddy faces federal charges of trafficking, coercion, and a criminal enterprise of abuse, Usher has finally decided to tell the truth, and he says the truth has been eating at him for years, starting from what he saw at just 14 years old while living under Diddy's care, to what he later uncovered about the dark side of the entertainment world. This isn't just a shocking testimony, it's historic. And it could change everything. Usher began by sharing the moment his mother told him he'd be moving to New York to live with Diddy. He was only 14, fresh off releasing his debut album, and full of dreams about making it big. Music executive L.A. Reid believed that Diddy's mentorship would speed up Usher's rise to fame. But no one could have predicted the kind of world Usher was about to enter. "I thought I was going there to learn how to be a star," Usher told the court. His voice was calm, but you could hear the tension. "Instead, I saw things no teenager should ever witness." Usher testified that from the moment he stepped into Diddy's penthouse in Midtown Manhattan, it was clear this wasn't a normal home. There was champagne served at breakfast, strangers waking up in random rooms he hadn't seen before, and familiar faces from TV and magazines, some half-dressed, others passed out. "It wasn't a home," he said. "It was a scene." Usher remembered it being called Flavor Camp. At first, he thought it was just a marketing term. Later, he realized it meant something else: total indulgence. The courtroom stayed silent as Usher explained how the mentorship quickly took a different turn. Diddy wasn't teaching him about singing or performing. Instead, he was told to party with celebrities, follow the lifestyle, and stop asking questions. "This is how we do it," Diddy told him. "You don't ask, you just watch. You learn by watching. That's how grown men roll." Usher then described one night that stuck with him. He woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of music playing softly and candles lighting the hallway. People wearing masks were entering the apartment. Curious, he walked into the living room and saw what Usher saw next. He could only describe as a ritual-like party. It wasn't just random behavior, there was structure to it. There were cameras, guest lists, and strangely, no one seemed surprised. "I remember thinking I had walked into a movie set," he said. "And I remember thinking, I shouldn't be seeing this." He was told to go back to bed. But he didn't sleep that night. That moment, Usher said, changed how he saw Diddy forever. The next part of his testimony focused on the warnings he never got, not from his record label, not from his mother, not even from people in the industry who already knew what Diddy's world was really like. People thought Diddy was just eccentric, Usher explained. They didn't see how much control he had, quiet, but total control. If Diddy didn't like you, your career stopped. If he did like you, staying silent was just part of the deal. Usher told the jury he wasn't the only one. There were others like him. Usher spoke about how young artists were brought in with big promises, fame, success, a fast track to the top. But slowly, they were pulled into Diddy's world in ways they didn't understand at the time. He didn't name anyone yet, but hinted that others would eventually speak out. "There were people around us who saw," Usher said. "Assistants, drivers, other musicians. Everyone acted like it was normal. But deep down, they knew. The adults failed us." One of the most disturbing parts of his testimony was about a private trip to the Caribbean Diddy took him on when he was just 15. "It was supposed to be a retreat," he said. "Just me, him, and a couple others. The place was isolated. No press. No cameras. That's when I realized I wasn't there to learn about music." He paused, then continued, "I won't go into everything. But I will say this, I wasn't given a choice about the kind of environment I was placed in. And it took me years to understand how I was being manipulated. The courtroom stayed silent. Usher said that after that trip, everything changed. Diddy became more controlling. There were always new people, more parties, more rules. And anytime Usher tried to push back, even just a little, he was. Usher said that anytime he tried to stand up for himself, he was reminded exactly who held the power. He told me, "You don't bite the hand that feeds you. Remember who gave you this life," Usher recalled. Then, in court, Usher looked directly at Diddy and said, "You didn't give me this life. You gave me nightmares." The next part of Usher's testimony was perhaps the most shocking yet. He described being handed a contract at just 16 years old. It included a confidentiality clause, what seemed like a basic non-disclosure agreement meant to protect Bad Boy Records' internal business. But Usher said it went further. It had specific language about private events and the need for discretion. At the time, I didn't even know what half the words meant, he told the court. My mother had to co-sign it. Usher said the label's lawyers told him the NDA was standard, just routine paperwork. But now, looking back, he sees it differently. It was a contract to keep me quiet, he said. I signed it because I trusted them. That signature bought my silence for years. Under that agreement, Usher wasn't allowed to talk about the parties, the guests, or what went on behind closed doors. He was told speaking out would hurt the brand. But what about what it did to me? He asked the court. Years later, Usher said, that same NDA was used to silence him again. In 2009, while preparing for a major interview, things took a turn. The questions started getting personal, he said. Then I got a call from Bad Boy's former legal team. They reminded me of the NDA. They said, "We hope you're not trying to jeopardize your reputation." Usher said he canceled the interview. But it didn't stop there. According to him, the pressure wasn't just legal, it was personal. He said he began receiving subtle threats from people still connected to Diddy's inner circle. People I hadn't heard from in years suddenly reached out. You think you've left that world behind, but it never leaves you. And if you step out of line, there are consequences. Not just to your career. To your safety. The courtroom sat frozen as Usher pulled out a physical copy of the NDA. The judge allowed it into evidence. It contained phrases like audio-visual documentation and unauthorized reproduction, words that, in light of Diddy's alleged secret video archive, suddenly felt far more disturbing. Usher's voice cracked. That document made me feel like I was losing my mind, Usher said softly. For years, it was like everything I saw and felt wasn't real, because I wasn't allowed to say it out loud. His voice trembled as he recalled a lesser-known moment from 1996, when he was just 17. Diddy had taken him to an exclusive mansion party in Atlanta, an experience that would forever change how Usher saw the man he once called a mentor. At first, it felt like a typical celebrity party. The mansion was stunning, marble floors, a DJ playing until sunrise, security at every door. The rooms were filled with stars, models, and mysterious men who didn't seem connected to the music business at all. But it wasn't the luxury that stuck with Usher, it was what was hidden behind it. He told the court he remembered Diddy whispering something to a guard, who then opened a locked door in the back of the house. Diddy turned to him, smiled, and said, "You're not ready for that yet." But Usher peeked in anyway. "There were people in masks," he said. "That's all I'll say. I didn't know what I was looking at then." Then he said something that made the entire courtroom shift in their seats. "I think that night changed me." Usher paused. "I saw things I still can't explain. I don't know if it was legal, but I know it wasn't right." He then held up photocopied pages from an old journal. He explained that he started the journal in 1998 to jot down lyrics and ideas, but over time, it became something else, a place where he recorded personal memories and moments from his time around Diddy. In one entry, dated March 1999, Usher wrote, "Had dinner with Diddy and 3 execs I didn't know. They kept talking about loyalty. Said, loyalty keeps you on tour. Honesty puts you back home." Diddy laughed. Another entry from October 2000 described the night he turned down an invitation. Too many secrets. Too many masks. Diddy says it's just the culture. I don't. Did you ever tell anyone about these entries? The prosecutor asked. Usher shook his head. I was afraid of losing everything, he said. I didn't think anyone would believe me. When asked why he was finally speaking out now, Usher replied, because I've lived with it long enough. It's time the truth comes out. Leaning into the microphone, Usher shared a story he said he'd never told, not even to his closest friends. In 1997, when he was 18, Diddy invited him to Miami to meet a major music investor, someone who could fund Usher's first world tour and help launch his brand globally. I thought it was about business, Usher said. Diddy hyped it up like this was the biggest break of my life. He told me to dress sharp, be polite, and make a good impression. But when Usher arrived at the penthouse suite in the Seda Hotel, what he found was nothing like a business meeting. 3 men were lounging in robes, sipping expensive champagne. Several young women sat silently in the background. One of the men, who said he was from overseas, leaned toward Usher and asked, "Do you want to be remembered forever?" He wasn't talking about music, Usher said. Diddy then left him alone with the men. I felt trapped, Usher testified. They didn't touch me, but one of them placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "You can stay, or you can leave. But you'll never get another invitation like this again." Usher chose to leave. And that, he said, is when everything started to shift. He was suddenly removed from a tour opportunity. A prominent producer, who had shown strong interest, pulled out of a project without explanation. No one ever told me it was because I left that suite, Usher explained. But after that night, doors that had always been open suddenly closed. Usher also testified about a disturbing moment just weeks later. Diddy showed him a video from a handheld camera. He laughed as he played it back, a clip of another young artist doing something Usher was sure they hadn't agreed to unless someone forced them. Did Diddy threaten you? The attorney asked. Usher paused before answering. He didn't have to. The people around him did. They didn't use words, Usher said quietly, they used silence. Usher called it exile. This was the moment he realized that in Diddy's world, fame wasn't about talent, it was about submission. That's how you stayed famous. His tone grew more personal as the courtroom lights dimmed slightly, cameras zooming in on his face. This is the hardest part, he said quietly, because it's not about me anymore. He went on to talk about the early days of Justin Bieber's rise, how Usher had helped launch his career, co-signing him and acting as his mentor. At first, it was all positive. I wanted to be the big brother I never had, Usher said. But then Diddy came into the picture. According to Usher, Diddy started inviting Bieber to parties, calling it flavor camp, the same phrase Usher had heard years before. Bieber was only 15, but they treated him like a grown man. In 2011, Usher got a call from Bieber. At first, there was silence, just heavy breathing. Then Bieber said, "I want to come home." Usher's team tried to find him, but Bieber disappeared for 2 days. When they finally met again, Bieber wouldn't look Usher in the eye. He just said, "It's fine. I'm good now." But Usher knew he wasn't. He later confronted Diddy privately and asked, "What are you doing to these kids?" Diddy reportedly chuckled and replied, "Same thing they did to me. It's how the game works." Usher said that was the last serious conversation they had. After that, he stepped back. He didn't want his name tied to it, but watching what happened to Justin, he knew he couldn't stay silent any longer. Usher also revealed for the first time that in 2018, he got a call from an anonymous number. A voice warned him. "Tell him to keep his mouth shut or we'll shut it for him." When asked who he thought was behind the call, Usher looked straight at the defense table. "I think you know," he said. The breaking point in his relationship with Diddy, Usher said, came during a night no one had ever talked about until now. In 2002, at a private party in a hidden estate in the Hollywood Hills, Usher said he witnessed something that changed everything. The event wasn't really a party, it was more like a rite of passage. It involved several young artists and models, many who believed they were being offered career opportunities. Usher testified that Diddy had invited him to the party under the pretense of meeting a new producer from Europe. But when Usher arrived, there were no executives or producers, just dim lighting, tight security at every corner, and a heavy feeling of secrecy. He described how phones were taken away at the door, and guests were handed contracts labeled as NDAs, but these agreements had language far more aggressive than anything he had seen before in the industry. The vibe was wrong, Usher said, his voice breaking for the first time in court. There were people there who weren't artists or executives. I realized they were just observers. He recognized some famous faces, people who had never publicly been linked to Diddy, but refused to name them. Instead, he hinted that if this trial keeps going, more people might come forward. The most chilling part of his testimony was when he tried to leave early but was stopped by a man he didn't know and taken to a side room where Diddy was waiting. Diddy told him, "You're not ready yet. You still think this is about music. It's bigger than that." Usher said he left that night and never went back to another Diddy party again. His testimony then shifted to Diddy's business tactics, not just with him but with many bad boy artists. For the first time, Usher presented internal emails and contract drafts showing that as a teenager, he had signed a development deal that locked him into 5 albums and gave away the rights to his masters until he was. Usher admitted, "I didn't know what I was signing. I just wanted to sing." He revealed that many other artists were locked into similar contracts, names like Carl Thomas, Total, Black Rob, and the late Craig Mack. Usher said Diddy had a pattern. He would pull artists close with promises of mentorship and exposure, but then discard them when they were no longer useful or obedient. He also said a private accountant once gave him a spreadsheet showing over $4.3 million in missed royalties. When he told Diddy, Usher claims Diddy laughed and said, "If you knew what was really owed to you, you wouldn't sleep at night." Court documents showed that some artists had quietly settled, accepting small payments just to get back the rights to use their own names or perform their songs. One shocking detail was that in 2011, Usher tried to secretly meet with other artists to discuss their shared problems, but the meeting was stopped because someone tipped off Diddy. Even worse, Usher said he once saw Diddy order the destruction of demo tapes and footage belonging to an artist who threatened to speak out. That artist, Usher said, has disappeared from the public and no one knows where he is. "I remember his voice. I remember he was scared," Usher said. The courtroom went silent. At the end of his testimony, Usher broke down when asked why he hadn't spoken out sooner. "Because I thought I owed him," he said. "I thought if I stayed silent, I could move on and still be grateful. But you can't be grateful for a lie." He said guilt ate away at him for years as he watched young artists fall into the same trap. For a long time, he didn't know how to help without risking his own career. It was always about leverage, Usher said. And Diddy had all of it. Usher also revealed that in 2016, when a controversial video clip began circulating online again, he tried to confront Diddy privately, but was stopped by Diddy's legal team. What shocked the courtroom most was when Usher read an unpublished journal entry he wrote the night he left Diddy's mentorship for good. "I survived, Puffy, but did the kid in me survive? I still don't know." He finished by addressing the court, victims watching online, and young artists who look up to the people on trial. "This isn't just about one man. It's about an entire system that told kids like me to be quiet, stay in line, and never question the hands that fed us. But I'm here now. And I'm not afraid anymore, not for me, because I've already lived through it. I'm doing this for the ones who didn't." The courtroom was silent. What started as a federal case about racketeering and trafficking had become something much bigger, a reckoning for decades of silence in the music industry. What the public never knew was that at the height of his fame, right after releasing the album 8701 in 2001, Usher quietly disappeared from the spotlight for a full week. Insiders assumed Usher was simply taking a break from his grueling tour schedule. But in court, Usher revealed the truth. He had checked into a private mental health facility in Northern California under a false name. According to his testimony, the breakdown was caused by unresolved trauma dating back to his time living with Diddy as a teenager. Usher admitted he started experiencing panic attacks shortly after turning 20. These attacks were often triggered by seemingly ordinary things, flashing lights, tight crowds, certain types of music. At first, he didn't understand the connection until one night in New York changed everything. I walked into the hallway and smelled the same brand of candles he used to burn, Usher told the court, describing a hotel that once hosted one of Diddy's infamous parties. My whole body froze. I started shaking. I couldn't breathe. That night, his team rushed him to a clinic where he stayed under observation for 5 days. What he shared with the in-house psychiatrist stunned the courtroom. For the first time publicly, Usher revealed the deep scars left by his experiences. I told him I saw things no kid should see. I lived in a world where power meant silence, and survival meant smiling through it, he said. That house wasn't just a crash pad, it was a place where dreams were sold, but your soul was the price. The psychiatrist diagnosed Usher with PTSD. It took nearly 2 years of therapy before he could sleep through the night without recurring nightmares. Though he didn't name others who may have suffered the same fate, Usher hinted that several young artists with similar ties to Diddy had either vanished or endured emotional breakdowns, too afraid to speak out. I was lucky. I had the money to get help. But some of the others didn't, he said. One overdosed. Another tried to take his own life. A third just disappeared. When asked why he kept this secret for more than 2 decades, Usher didn't flinch. Because nobody would have believed me, he said. In 2001, Puffy was untouchable. Untouchable, and I was just a kid with a voice, Usher said quietly. But now the world is ready to listen. The courtroom fell silent, not only from the weight of his confession but from the profound implications it carried. Behind every platinum record, every Grammy speech, and every sold-out show, there may have been a silent war raging inside the mind of a young artist simply trying to survive. And now, at last, he was speaking up, not just for himself, but for every voice that had been drowned out by the music.